Peace and blessings, brothers and sisters. Just wanted to bring out something that I had taken notice of. I'm gonna shift this around and try to make sure the lighting's good and not bad. Um, I just want to share something I've taken notice of. And that big the statement where God says, "My people perish for lack of knowledge." I'm tired of working with this. I'm trying to get the right lighting. Trying to get the right lighting. Stay with me. Stay with me. Patience is a virtue. Use your virtuous patience. Let me scooch up. Maybe that'll help. I keep getting dark, then I get light. But like I said, I wanted to share something that truly stood out to me that I noticed. Okay. First of all, I'm going to read from the Psalm. We're in Psalm 83. Um, chap Psalm 82, 83, verse 3. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, "Come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee." Um, One of the things that I was looking at the time this came to me, there's a term called black codes. Black codes. Okay, and I'm going to give you the definition for black codes. A series of 19th century laws and practices used to control the activities of free blacks in both the North and South. Their movements, choice of professions, education, and social life were severely restricted. Black codes. Black codes. Um, One of the things about the black codes is the stereotypes. Okay, the stereotypes that the media put upon us. These stereotypes is are the things that a lot of people respond to us based on. Stereotypes. The media, the propaganda machine forwards them, but they actually get deeper than that. I'm going to read Black Codes one more time to bring out my point. Okay, Black Codes. A series of 19th century laws and practices used to control the activities of free African or free blacks in both the North and South. Their movements, choice of professions, education, and social life were severely restricted. Now, I'm going to couple that with caste system. Any system that divides people into classes according to their rank, wealth, or profession, or that of the family into which they were born. Okay, so we're talking about black codes and caste system. Now, these black codes that were put into place that limit the profession, the education, your social life, your ability to move up or down the social ladder, which in turn immediately catapults you into the bottom rung of the caste system. I'm going to line this up with Psalm 83. We're going to start at the third verse, end at the fifth. Psalm 83, starting at the third verse, ending at the fifth. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, "Come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee." Now, the Black Codes were a series of laws instituted in the United States. These laws were put together to create a caste system that would hold the so-called African Americans, the Hebrew Israelites, at the bottom rung of the social ladder. It was put in place so that your ability to make money, your education, your profession, your social status was always diminished, always on the bottom rung. One of the other things I was looking at was the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. These amendments were put in place upon the end of the Civil War. okay, beginning around 1865 at the end of the Civil War. The First Amendment was the 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment um, said that slavery is illegal everywhere in the United States except as punishment for a crime. Except as punishment for a crime. Now, you have to keep in mind about the Black Codes. These were a series of laws in the 19th century. This is their genesis when they began, put together in order to limit and or control the social, educational, and professional mobility of the so-called African Americans, the Hebrews. Okay, it was to keep us on the bottom rung of the social ladder, keep us at the bottom of the caste system. Okay. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I was talking about the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. 13th Amendment clearly states that slavery is illegal everywhere in the United States except as punishment for crime. So, remember the Black Codes, there's a series of laws. Now, because the 13th Amendment had this loophole stating that slavery is illegal everywhere in the U.S. except as punishment for a crime, they instituted something called vagrancy laws. Vagrancy laws said that if you were suffering from poverty, you had nothing, nowhere to go, you could be locked up for vagrancy. They made vagrancy a crime. But you got to understand the manipulation. When the Hebrews were freed from enslavement, they were given their freedom and nothing else, no capital. They had nothing to start with beyond their freedom. So now, entering the 13th Amendment, which says slavery is illegal everywhere in the U.S. except as punishment for a crime. Okay, so in order to criminalize the newly free Hebrews, they introduced the vagrancy laws. Okay, now remember I said the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. The 14th Amendment made us citizens. The 15th Amendment gave us voting rights. Okay, so in order to subvert the 13th Amendment and get around it, in order to get work crews, chain gangs, jail labor, they had to use the loophole of the 13th Amendment under vagrancy laws, loitering laws, in order to lock up many of the young men that were targeted and to get them to go out and work in the fields and do whatever work they needed them to do. Okay, by the same token, now that you use these laws and you criminalize them, particularly with felonies, once they incur a felony, now it limits their rights as a citizen. We're going to bring this thing all the way up to current. Okay, once you limit their rights as citizens, if you want to go out here and get a grant in order to go to school, in order to further yourself, to go into a profession, to move up in the social ladder, remember the Black Codes, they limit your ability, they determine whether or not uh, the profession, the type of education, your social life. If you don't have a quality paying job, the place that you live in guaranteed is not going to be in the quality neighborhood that you have the right to live in, because these Black Codes are at work. How do they work? First of all, you got to create a felony for them. So we're going to enslave you using the loophole of the 13th Amendment. Once we do that, now we're going to take away some of your citizenships or your rights as a citizen, because a lot of the things, the amenities and the resources afforded to a citizen, you lose the moment you gain your felony. The other thing is it automatically takes away your 15th Amendment right, which is your voting rights. So those people who keep these laws on the books, who won't remove them, who won't amend them, stay in office because you don't have a political voice. Okay? And that caste system keeps you on the bottom rung. I was talking to some young people. Remember, the word says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. My people suffer for lack of knowledge. I talked to some young people, and I was I won't say I was doing a survey, but it may have come about as seeming like a survey. Um, I asked them, I said, when you think of a white neighborhood, Tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. Just think of a white neighborhood. Tell me the first thing comes to your mind. So, and I mean, I had multiple young people in front of me because I deal with them, I work with them. Um, and they said clean, safe, space, uh, um, safe, educated, uh, peaceful. These are some of the repetitive words I heard. So I said, okay, that's the white neighborhood. Now I want you to tell me, first word comes into your mind when I say a black neighborhood. Crime, drugs, violence, dirty, threatening. These are some of the other terms that immediately entered their minds. So I'm speaking to them. And I told them, I said, when the cities in this country were first being initiated, when they were first being constructed, uh, who do you think, which group between the white group and the black group, which city do you think was cleaner, more prosperous, the black one or the white one? So they said, naturally, the black one. I'm sorry. They said, naturally, the white one. And I told them, you know what? No. When the cities were first being constructed and lived in, you were dealing with true slums. There was no indoor plumbing. There was a lot of filth going on. It was rancid, overrun with disease, filth. I said, but here's the funny thing. In the black neighborhoods, because they had been forced to serve, they already knew how to dispose of the garbage. They knew how to dispose of the human waste, be it number one, two, or both of them. And the kids kind of got this curious look to them. So I said, what you do is you dig a hole. You dig a hole. We're talking about outhouse days. This is before indoor plumbing, outhouse days. You dig a hole, you put the dirt beside it, you make a box with a hole in it. You do your business, be it number one or number two. Then when you're finished, you take the dirt and sprinkle it. Not all of it. You sprinkle some of the dirt over whatever your body gave up. And every time the hole is used for a person to go to the bathroom, what you do is you cover it over with a certain amount of the dirt. When the hole is finally filled up, they would move the outhouse over and dig another hole, repeat process. Two things happen. First thing is there's no stench. The second thing that simultaneously happens is you're fertilizing the ground because we were agricultural society back then. We're still actually agricultural, but a lot of us who live in the city or urban areas, especially young people, they don't see it that way. Um, and I told them the same way with garbage. The people would dig a hole. Matter of fact, I asked them, you ever hear compost? But back then, they would dig a hole, bury the garbage, put some dirt on it, and any other garbage they got. What would happen is the ground is constantly being fertilized. There's no stench, there's no filth. Okay, and what happened was once again consulting against the hidden ones as the people saw these areas and how clean and orderly these black cities and neighborhoods were. They came in to rob, steal, kill, or destroy. You can look at Tulsa, Oklahoma. That was called Little Africa. Black Wall Street was another name for it. Beautiful, outstanding city. Another one was Rosewood. I'm just going to name those two. But the people, we were not considered, our areas weren't considered crime ridden. They weren't considered dirty. They weren't considered threatening. Okay, but these black codes create stereotypes. And the thing that you got to recognize, the stereotypes are not just in the minds of whites, they're also in the minds of blacks because they're propagated so heavily through the media. I also asked the young people, where do you think the term ghetto came from? Well, everybody knows black people live in ghettos. And I was like, no, ghetto is a European term that was a European area over in Europe. It had nothing to do with black people until it became part of that language, part of that caste system language, those black codes, that anything negative, anything downtrodden was afforded to us. When in reality, we didn't live in ghettos. Those people who call themselves Jews, who are not, that's where they live. The same way with the term hood. Um, I asked them about hood. Well, everybody knows that's our neighborhood. That's where we live. Term started with us. No, it did not. Okay, a hood was considered a criminal, and anytime you saw the portrayal, it was a European male. It was never a black kid. It was never where we lived. What it is every negative connotation was afforded to us. And if we don't pass this knowledge along, a lot of us just assume, particularly the young people, that that's who we are, that's how we were. And I'm like, no, we lived in some of the most clean, well kept neighborhoods in this country. Reason being, where were we coming from? We were the ones that had to keep the old plantation clean. We had to know how to dispose of the waste. I'm not just talking human waste, any waste, be it garbage or bodily waste, and it had to be clean. The area had to be clean. We know how to do it successfully and sufficiently. So again, when you think of this caste system, you're dealing with black codes that run against your 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment rights, particularly using the loophole of the 13th Amendment to take away your 14th Amendment rights, which are your citizenship or your voting rights. Okay, even if you wanted to bring somebody into the system that you figure could make it better, and I'm not saying they can't, you have to recognize these are codes put in place and they line up with the Word of God. Once again, I'm going to repeat Psalm 83, starting at the third verse. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. Brothers and sisters, you got to drop knowledge and information on one another instead of us always taking that negative viewpoint. We've got to recognize that we are our walking, talking history. We are each other's truth. We are each other's eyes. And the truth of the matter is, when it came to knowing how to organize things, when it came to being some of the best builders, you can look at the White House, you can look at the Capitol. And the first White House, we built it. Okay, when it was burnt down during the war 1812, we rebuilt it. Okay, a lot of these things young people don't know and a lot of older people don't know. They just believe the negatives afforded to one another. Why? Because they have consulted together against our hidden ones. They have taken crafty counsel together. Who? You are talking about a systematic governmental intent to keep you down professionally, educationally, and socially. And I told the young people, if I limit your education, then I limit your profession. If I limit your profession, then I limit your ability to climb the social ladder. So now I'm dealing in the caste system. I'm going to make you on the bottom rung of that social order, that stratification, if you will. Um, I just wanted to drop some knowledge because when I ran into these terms and I was talking to these group of young people, I was trying to tell them, even though it's manipulated and changed around, it's still going on. Those black codes, that caste system. But God has broken that so-called glass ceiling because he's taken it to another level. One of the other things was debt dependency, a system where African American farmers would work all year. You can interchange the word farmers with people, but a system where African American farmers slash people would work all year after harvesting the crops or after making all your money. When time came to settle with white owners or let's say the utility companies to pay your rent, to pay your mortgage, um, they would be told they owed the landowner more money than they had earned. Okay, by not having the means of production, by not having land, having been given land in a capitalistic society, these things were already set in place. However, because knowledge, wisdom, discernment has come back to us, one of the things we need to do is build each other up to let each other know Whether we're talking about the term ghetto, whether we're talking about debt dependency, whether we're talking about caste system, this was a systematic law, a series of laws put in place to manipulate and use us. Like I said, even to the term that once the 13th Amendment was put in place, that slavery is illegal everywhere in the United States except as punishment for a crime, then the vagrancy laws were put in place. We were freed with nothing. Absolutely nothing. Even when you go so far as to talk about Reconstruction, you got to understand we didn't have last names. And most of us, unless you're born in this last generation where a lot of the parents are starting to give their children names, and I'm talking first and last that are not European, a great majority of us carry a last name that traces to Europe. It doesn't trace to who we are. Okay, and I say that also because a lot of times when you read about people in the Bible and you say, oh, this person is from Greece, this person is from one of the heathen nations or one of the Gentile nations, and you automatically assume, well, they're Gentiles and they're let into the fold. Look at their name, look at their name. All you got to do is look at our names. All you have to do is look at the names we were given. We live in a nation that the so-called all-American doesn't look like us. We carry the name of people that are not our people. So you have to teach, we have to teach one another our history and give us a greater understanding of who we are. As I spoke to these young people and we talked about neighborhoods, and I said, the fact that you said crime ridden or dirty, the same way you can wait for another person to pick up a broom, you could pick it up yourself. I did it. Years ago, when I lived next door to an abandoned building that was covered in graffiti, I decided I didn't want to live next to graffiti anymore. So I went and got some paint and a roller and painted over it and tried to keep in the lines and make it look nice. People kept telling me, you know what, they're just going to come and spray paint back over that. And I said, well, I'm just going to come and paint back over it. And for a moment, I did go through a war of attrition with the so-called graffiti artists until one day they ran up on me. Why you covering my tags like that? I'm not covering your tags. I'm expressing the fact I got the right to live somewhere beautiful. And after a while, the brothers stopped tagging it. I said, I come home, it looks horrible. I have a right to live in a nice area. And if they, as Earth, Wind, and Fire said, if there ain't no beauty, you gotta make some beauty. So guess who was making beauty? I was planting flowers and picking up trash and keeping it clean. Well, this is what I was saying to the young people. You got the ability to pick up a broom. You got the ability to stay within the lines. And if you see something old that needs painting, either talk to your parents or talk to me. We can go down to city council. They will donate paint. It's not as hard as you think. Remember, the word of God says the kingdom of heaven is within us. The kingdom of heaven is on the inside. Okay, as it is in heaven, so shall it be on the earth. It's on the inside. We have the ability to transform our surroundings. Okay, as a person thinketh, so shall they be. I kept painting and painting and painting until the brothers stopped tagging. Then after a while, the people that lived across the street one day, I'm out there sweeping up, and the lady said, oh no, I'm tired of graffiti on the sidewall of my house. She's painting her house. Then the store owner across the street told me he hired a couple guys. I looked, this wall that was tagged all up, he not only got the wall painted, he got an artist to put a beautiful mural up there, a mural, okay? And what I'm saying is, we have heaven within us. We have beauty built in. We have to recognize who we are. I don't care what law, what series of codes are put in place. We've got a natural series of codes put in us, given to us by the Most High God. That spirit within can pour out. We can pour out on our environment. We can pour out on one another. Just dropping knowledge. When I told those young people how beautiful the towns and cities and areas were in which we lived, they were shocked. Then I started showing them in the history books and about Tulsa, Oklahoma, about Rosewood. I even told them there was a city in Philadelphia, there was an area in the city of Philadelphia called Osage Avenue. Beautiful neighborhood. They bombed it, okay? But the people did rebuild. If you wait for somebody else, you just gonna be waiting. But we have natural creativity. If we're the firstborn with the gifts bestowed upon us by God, we need to pour out. We need to pour out on one another so that those black codes, that caste system, slowly begins to be nothing more than something written on a piece of paper. Um, when I think about my brothers and sisters, uh, whether they're incarcerated or whether we're suffering, because we don't know exactly when this our captivity will come to an end. But I do know to pray to God, to pray to the Most High Elohim, pray to Yah, to forgive the sins of our ancestors and to forgive our sins and to have mercy, to ask Him to remember His covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and to defend His righteous name, which is in the Word. Okay, so we can come together. It doesn't matter what the media says. At this point, you have so much information going out that if you flood the system with the positive truth, it combats. Remember, darkness only lasts as long as until the light comes. Once the light shines, which is the truth, it's expelled, it's exploded, it's that era is exposed as being nothing more than a lie. Well, it's the same way, brothers and sisters, with these black codes, with these terms and beliefs. As young brothers and sisters, when it's understood, they try to tell you a drug dealer. Please, some of the hardest drugs are in the white neighborhoods. Opioid crisis and epidemic, methamphetamine, crack. Okay, they try to keep it on the hush hush and the down low, but it's coming out. Okay, in the last days, knowledge shall be increased. We're watching the prophetic words of Daniel come to light. Okay, but I just wanted to share this because when I looked at the terms black codes, caste systems, sharecropping, debt dependency, um, these are a series of manipulations and maneuvers to try to keep us down. But when you see through the matrix, when you see through the lies and you know who you are and to whom thy spirit, thy soul, thy life is committed, those lies have no power. Okay? I just want you to be blessed, walk in the light, stay true to who you are, the child of the Most High God, and don't put your trust in man or in the words of man, but in the word of God. Peace and blessings. Shalom.